Hey guys, we are live on YouTube. I did receive my AT6 case, and we're gonna build the shocks today. There is other steps to do before this, but I actually start by the shocks. Um, Simple reason, it takes a little time consuming, and there's a couple things about these shocks that I want to talk about. Uh, and Just setting up all my YouTube thing, make sure everything is okay. Okay. So, a few things about the Cross RC brand, what they send, especially on the AT6 case, in the case of the AT6, sorry, is they do send you some containers for grease and shock oil. It is written 50 shock oil, but everything is empty. So I sent them an email and basically asked them, how come there's no shock oil? They say we don't put it in there because it usually leaks and it makes a mess in the kit. That's understandable, but a lot of people actually succeed in doing it without making a mess. Myself, I think it's kind of a laziness, but what's even more lazy is that they don't tell you on the website that you will need oil and grease. In my case, I have plenty of oil, I have plenty of grease. I'm just saying that for people that are new and people that don't have the inventory I have, it would be good for them to actually state that they actually don't send the grease or the oil. The only thing you're basically going to need is the oil because all the transmission and all the drivetrain is already assembled. It is already a little bit greased inside. If you want more grease, yes, you do have to open it up and check to make sure they put enough. They put the minimum in there. Is it enough? Probably, but some people like to have more grease. So, yeah, they didn't send you the grease. That's not a big deal because everything is pre-assembled. Transmission and drivetrain is assembled, except for the center rear carry um, dry shaft carrier in the rear on top of the center axle. That one is not assembled, so you might need a little bit of grease there. But the shock, you need shock oil. They stipulated here 50 weight oil, and this is what I got from Team Lozy. It is some 50. So I'm going to be using this today to put actually in the shock. And I actually built one already, and I did a quick video of a quick tip on the shock and how to build it. Now, there's something interesting with this shocks we'll cover when we assemble this because this does not have a bladder on the top part, which makes it a little bit trickier to actually fill with oil because if you put too much oil, it won't compress all the way. And we'll actually do this on the first shock. I'll probably put too much oil in it just to show you how the shock doesn't work properly. And we'll go through a couple points anyways when we start building this. I've already installed the two little C-clip or E-clip, depending how people call this. Hey, Sergeant J, how you doing? Have a good bash session today if you're going bashing. So I've already installed this, and now we're going to install on the bottom. There's a couple of O-rings, and there's some spacers. So, like I mentioned in my other video, I I actually use where the spacers goes instead of putting oil. They stipulate in the manual to actually put oil, shock oil. I put marine grease for the simple reason this is thicker and it won't. It's going to stop your shock from leaking from this end, and this is where a lot of shocks leak from this end or sometime from the top end. But 99.9% of the time, it's from the bottom. I like these shocks because for the simple reason they do have a small little tiny spacers that go before the two O-rings, and there is two O-rings. Some shocks I've seen only have the two O-ring and not the plastic little spacers. I like the idea of the spacers. Now that said, what I do is I put a little bit of marine grease onto a small little bag that I'm not going to use anymore. Then I can use a piece of metal. I'm using my tweezers, and I'm just going to put some marine grease in there in the hole just to fill up the hole a little bit, and that's where the first spacer is going to go. And basically when you sandwich your first spacer in there, and it does have a certain way to go because there's a little notch on these. Just follow the instruction, but there is a little notch goes down so that your spacer actually sits properly. Now I'm going to use this to push it in and set it at its proper place, at its home. So now it's in there. Bushman613, how are you doing? Thanks for dropping in here. Now I'm going to take the small O-ring and I'm just going to drop it uh, onto the grease, the marine grease. And now it's full of marine grease, and I'm just going to stick it into the hole. I'm going to take the other one and do the same thing. Hey, 907 Arctic, how you doing? Hope the weather's good where you are and not too cold. So again, I'm putting grease all over this little O-ring, and I'm going to stick it in there. And yes, your fingers will end up with grease, but that's why I have a little paper cloth there to clean it up. And now I can take the other one, the bigger little plastic O-ring, plastic spacers, put some grease on there, and just put it on top. What's nice with the grease, it helps being sticky and it's all there. Now I can take the bottom part and actually screw it in. There we go. Sometimes this does come loose on the trail, so you could put a little bit of Loctite onto this and actually just put it there. But because of the way these spacers are done, this one should actually stay there pretty solid. Now I do have grease in the hole, but once I push this rod into it, the grease is going to come out. So now I push this, and then you can see a bunch of little grease comes out with the screw. Then I can just put it onto my plastic as much as possible and just pull it and wipe off the excess grease on it. And now the O-ring and bushing that's in there are nice and greased up and ready to put the ball end at the end. For the ball end, they give you metal ball end, which is nice. Two ways to put these on if you don't have the proper shock tool. One way, the old way I used to do it, you put it right on top of it, and then you just push on it until it clicks and it's installed. Sometime if you have a lot, it takes a long time. But I got this from Pitt RC products. There you go. Now you can see it. RC Pitt products. And this has the ball end on it. So basically you just install your ball end kind of on it a little bit. And then you just install it on top of it. And then you just push it in. And there we go. It's installed. This is a heck of a lot easier putting these on. And on top of that, when you have this, you can actually hold the shock shaft a heck of a lot easier using this, and you will not hurt the shock shaft. They do tell you you can use these kind of pliers, but you got to hold it right at the edge of where the thread is. Problem with these is they do hold, but you will wreck your cutters and they won't cut as much. But use a proper tool. These are about, depending where you buy them, they vary from prices. So basically you hold the shaft of the shock, and then you just screw this in. Now I've already pre-measured this. They say that it has to be at 28.5. And I did notice that 28.5 actually goes up to where the thread actually stops. So I'll screw that in until I get right to the edge where I cannot see the thread anymore. And now, there I am. Now my shock shaft, there's no marks on it. And everything's there. I just remembered, they gave me an extra O-ring to actually put at the end, which I'll have to take it apart. And we have John that joined us in the Zoom meeting. And you guys should be able to hear him through my speakers. I'm trying something new today with this. So I'm not streaming with the Zoom. I'm actually streaming with YouTube Studio with the cam option.
Howdy, howdy.
Hey, John. If you want to see the chat, you'll just have to...
Yeah, I already got the chat popped up on the computer.
Okay. So they do tell you to put a little...
that for you.
Okay. Do tell you to put a little O-ring.
Thompson and Dennis. Hey, Kurt.
Yeah, one thing with these shocks I noticed, which I don't like, there's a lot of good things I like about these shocks and how they're made. But one thing I did not like is they don't have a bladder on top. So it makes it complicated on how much oil you put and how you actually install the cap. So let me fill it up with oil.
Now, take what I've noticed with a lot of the shocks that you got to fill from the bottom side is they don't have that top bladder.
What do you mean? I don't understand bottom side.
When you have to fill the shock from the bottom, like I know the Arma ones, they unscrew from the bottom too. They don't have a bladder in them either.
Okay.
So that might be just something that they do just for that particular style of shock.
Maybe. But this one, you actually fill it from the top.
Oh, do you fill it from the top?
Yeah, I'm filling it from the top right now.
Oh, okay.
But you do have a screw here, but this is where, on the bottom, this is where the O-rings go. There's two O-rings and two spacers. But this one, I just filled it from the top. But on the top one, which comes all prepared, it does not have a bladder inside. That's a complete, not different discussion, but it's a very good discussion of why the bladder is there. And I like having it there because it just makes sense.
Tank, Big Head just said my my audio is low, so that might be a setting on your end.
Yeah, I need to put yours louder. Hold on.
All right.
Because you're coming out of my speakers.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if I don't put the book on the speakers, you'll hear me better. Go ahead now.
No, he was saying that I sound, my volume is low. So that might be like a setting in your...
Yeah, I just brought your audio up now.
Okay.
So I am using my Poor Man shock holder that I built before. I do have a video on YouTube on how to build this. So if you don't have a shock holder, you can actually build this. Very easy to build. Okay, so I've put oil in there, but I went about where the inside threads are, because when you push the shaft in, the oil does come up all the way to the top. Like you can see, the oil is all the way to the top now. So when I pull it down, the oil goes down, because the shaft, when it goes in, it takes room in there. So one thing with these shocks, I usually put them about halfway because it doesn't have a bladder, an inside bladder. So I push it in about halfway, sometimes a little bit more, and then I screw it in. And you screw it in all the way because there was a little seal there. So now everything is there. And now if I push it in, and see right now, it doesn't go all the way in. Like even if I push it as hard as I can, it will not go in all the way. Almost. That means, to me, that means I got a little bit too much oil in there, because I won't get full compression. It does come out a little bit, but the shaft does not have enough room. The air compresses on top, and I don't have full compression. So I'll have to open this and dump a little bit of oil into my tank again. Now, there's different ways to do shocks, different preferences. It's all in your preferences of what you want to do. So I'll try to take it maybe one drop out. There we go. And then again, I'm going to compress it about halfway. The reason I'm compressing it halfway is I'm taking all the air out almost. If you don't do that, you just have compression on top. And now I can pull it. It doesn't suck in back. You'll notice that now I got full compression. It does go in all the way, and it does come out. So that's good, because I am compressing the air and it's coming out a little bit. That's good. But when I pull it out all the way, it doesn't suck it back in. When it sucks it back in, that means you don't have enough oil, but you have too much air. So it's all getting used to your shock, but when you pull it all the way, it doesn't suck back in. That means the air is not sucking it back in. So right now, this shock to me is perfect. I'm getting full compression all the way up to the gasket, to the rubber. And now I can bring this up, put that in, and put my retainer. There we go. Second shot done. Now the first shock that I built, I noticed I did not put a little retainer on it, a little O-ring. So that one I'll put it aside, and I'll have to take it off later. Take it apart. So what are you doing today, John?
Oh, just hanging out.
Hanging out? Okay, cool. Not going out today, bashing or racing?
No, I was gonna go yesterday, but I ended up getting sicker than a dog yesterday and didn't even go.
Okay. So there again, I'm using my grease, my slime, my green slime or marine grease, and putting it on the bottom so I can put my first little spacers, my white spacer. And then I'm going to take an O-ring, fill it up with grease. Now what the grease is going to do in there, it's going to stop the oil from leaking from the bottom. You do, yeah.
Robert's asking, do you do the same thing for bashers?
Yeah, I would. Mind you, some shocks are different or built different. Some don't have as many O-rings or as many stuff on it. But pretty much when I have to put O-rings on the bottom, I do like putting marine grease, because oil is thinner and will end up becoming thinner. Marine grease will stay grimy and stop the oil from leaking from the bottom there. So to me, putting marine grease there makes a lot of sense. And it's waterproof. It just won't go away. There we go. So now one is done here. The two spacers are done, and in between the two spacers are two rubber grommet. Well, I can put the shaft in. Shaft comes through, clean it up. Clean a little bit of the grease off of it. Here we go, another shock done. Well, not done, but now I can put the end on it. Oh, before putting the end, we've got to put that second O-ring, third O-ring, I mean. Shocks for crawlers. Do you do the same for bashers? A shock is a shock. You basically set up your shock because a shock is in there. These shocks are there for without the spring, is a dampener. It's not meant to come out. It's not meant it's meant to have a little bit of resistance, but your shock, your spring on it, that's what's going to make it pop out. It's the spring. The oil that you put in there is to slow it down from coming in and out. That's what the oil is going to do. It's going to stop it. It's going to slow it down from coming in and out, but the spring is going to help pop it back out. And that's the same thing with bashers or crawlers. Bashers probably have bigger springs because they take a bigger hit. My God, you're making a lot of noise.
Yeah, reaching around stuff here. Got a TV on in the background here, and decided it wanted to be a little bit louder than it was.
Usually when a commercial comes on, that's when it gets loud.
Yeah.
Now, when I built yeah, go ahead.
Now with these shocks, so they got the different holes in the pistons, or are they solid?
There's actually on the piston they have 3 holes.
Okay.
3, not holes, but gaps on the side.
Oh, okay.
Come on, camera, focus. There we go. So they have 3 little gaps on the side. Oh, you don't see that, but the people on YouTube, because the people on YouTube gets a different view than you do. They get my camera on the side there.
Yeah, I didn't know exactly how Cross did it, or if they for the holes, or if they were notched like that or not.
I built different shocks from Cross, and for some odd reason they are different. Like from my HC4, the shocks were different than these. So I guess it's a different manufacturer they get it from or something.
Either that, or it might make a difference in the actual drivability of it.
Yep. Or the weight of the vehicle.
Yeah.
But again,
not that I'm saying that there's a single Cross that's a lightweight vehicle.
Yeah, true.
You know.
Especially most of them have hard bodies.
Yeah.
Now I put lots of grease in there. You can see. Come on, focus. Usually. Yes, those shocks are very nice and very smooth. What's nice with these is everything is aluminum. The cap's aluminum, the bottom's aluminum. So everything is aluminum. Little bottom piece where it holds everything in. Everything is aluminum. Shaft are good quality. They're probably titanium. And these are crawler shocks, not basher shocks. So I like them. I like how they've done. The only complaint I got for these shocks is that they are not. Come on, you. They don't have a bladder on top. That's the only thing that a little bit disappointing, but as long as I know, I can work with it. But the hardest thing I've known from people that build shocks from the day I got in here is how much oil do you put in it? The answer is simple. It all depends. it's not that simple. It all depends what type of shock you got, because if you have a bladder shock, then it's going to be different the way you're going to set it up, and different manufacturers sometimes have different size of bladder. Some of them have more, some of them have less. What the bladder does is on top of the bladder there's a little space for air, so you usually put enough shock and then you put your bladder on there, and then it has enough compression that all the air actually compress on top of the bladder. These don't have that, so you have to compensate and make sure you have enough room for the. On the next one, well, no, not on the next one, but I did show that I had too much oil, so I couldn't compress all the way. Put that in all the way. Now, full compression all the way up to there. And then you can see it's not touching on top. That's pretty close to where the threads are, the inside threads. Pretty hard to see. There we go. You can see the inside thread where they are and where they stop. That's pretty much where I'm going to fill the oil up to. Yes, it is a personal preference on how much oil you put in it. Some hardly use any oil. True, but then there's too much air, and then you become having pockets of air, and when it goes up and down, it makes bubbles, and your shock just doesn't perform the same way. And if you don't do all 4 shocks exactly the same way, then your truck might not perform as good. For trail truck, does it matter a lot? No, not really, because, but for comp truck, that's where I think it matters a lot. So I think I got too much in this one. I'm just going up and down with the shaft to actually see if I got air bubbles, or to make sure I take off all the air bubbles that were underneath the shaft. And right now I don't see any bubbles. A little bit of bubbles. But if I go up and down often enough, it will come up. Some people leave the shaft sitting so the bubbles come up all the way. In this instance, I don't have to, because I will have an air gap anyways. So if I leave the shaft down all the way and I put this, it's going to put more air, or more compressed air, in there. So I'll push it in about halfway. But now I know for a fact I got too much oil in here compared to before. So now I can push it out all the way, but if I push it in, see, now this is how much I can compress it. So if you put too much oil in there, like I was about halfway to those threads you saw, I cannot compress this all the way. There's no way, it just won't go. Compared to where this one was, it went all the way. This one is, there's no oil in this one, but this one, now I got too much oil in this one. Because if you put too much oil, there's no room for the air to go anywhere, or for the oil to compress. If I keep pushing slowly, I will compress it and compress the air all the way. Now I'm compressed all the way. That's because I slowly compressed it. Now if I let go and I pull it back, the air actually came out, and some of the oil came out because I wasn't tight all the way. Did I put the, no, and that's where the air came out of that one. I did not put the little seal that goes on the edge here. So that's why the air came out of that one. So let me put that little seal back on there. My fingers are beginning to be... Oh, I forgot to put my other ring. How often does this happen? Often enough. Now I'll compress it. Screw that in there. And when I actually screw it, I can feel the shaft coming back out. Again, I'm getting a little bounce, but I'm getting full compression, which is good. And it comes out all the way and it doesn't go back in. And if you don't have enough oil in there, you won't get that bounce back. And you'll hear squish. You'll hear like a slushy sound in there if you don't have enough oil. Now this is for this type of shock. What kind of shock oil am I using right now? It's Team Low C Racing 50 weight. This is basically what was supposed to come with the kit. Like I said in the beginning, they supply you with the bottle, which is empty, and the grease bottle, which is also empty. I emailed them and asked them, how come there's nothing in there? They said, well, we don't ship it because it makes a mess. Sometimes they leak and it makes a mess. But nowhere was it written that I needed some. Good thing I had some here. Not everybody has spare oil or grease at their house. I completely agree that most builders will, but not everybody does. So we'll put the spring, put the retainer.
I'm almost surprised they even put the bottles in there even at all.
Yeah, understood. Like they should just remove this package and throw it in the garbage.
You know?
My fingers are oily now. Of course, we're working with shock oil.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing with these shocks is what you can do is actually do like I did on the other one, is not put the gasket on it or not put it too tight and then just squeeze the air out of it to get full compression. Then you give it a final twist. And that would be the best way to make sure you have enough oil in there. So just to make sure I don't forget these little tiny O-rings. I'll put them now on all three of them, the three last shock that I need to put. I prefer Team Associated Fluted made by Lucas Oil. Cool. This is the oil I got that I had left over. And somebody actually gave me a lot of his stuff because they were getting out of the hobby. So this is basically leftover of what he had way back when he gave me a bunch of stuff when he left the hobby. So I'm not going to complain. I like it. And then I never had any problem with Team Low C oil. The only thing you have to do to make sure they is what they call these kind of oil again. It's written here, silicone oil. So I'll just fill up with oil, go up and down, make sure I take the bubbles out of the bottom of it. And again here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw it on, but not seal it. So it's not sealed. Oh, sorry. It's not sealed on top. I'm just going to hold this here because it is going to make a mess. And then when I push up all the way, the oil should come out. You can see it coming out of the side of the finger there. Should all come out. That's all the extra oil that's coming out. And now, because I pushed on it, the oil pushed my gasket out. That's okay. I'll just go back a little and then screw it back in. There we go. The only difference is that I made this one different than all the other one. The other one, when I pushed it in, it came out a little bit more. So that means this one is not made the same way I made the other ones. And I can hear, or I can feel like a slushy feeling on it. So to me, I don't have enough oil on this. I maybe need 1 or 2 drops more. So it took.
Yeah, this is saying make sure you put that ring on for the spring tank.
Yes. I did forget that earlier, kind of.
No, the top ring.
Yeah,
the adjuster.
No, I understand. And I almost forgot it earlier. Now I put 1 drop in there, bringing it about halfway. Sometimes getting all the shocks exactly the same is a little tough. It does spring a little bit. But looks like I got too much oil in there now. So let's open it up a little bit and take a little bit of oil out.
The joys of building shocks.
Oh yeah. The hardest thing is making sure you got them all pretty much all the same from all the shocks. Okay. Bring the O-ring up, put this retainer. And pop it down. Smooth as butter. Now this one earlier, I forgot to put the O-ring on, so we'll just take that apart real quick. Forgot to put the O-ring there. Thank you, Arctic. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up on your way in or on your way out. It helps the algorithm. But everybody has their tips and tricks, just like you, John. You've built a lot of shocks in the past, and depending on the shock that you're building, you have different tips or tricks. So.
Oh yeah. Especially like I said earlier, it's amazing just filling it, being able to fill it from the top of the bladder, and then building one from upside down.
Yeah.
and having to put the oil down into it.
I never
And
built those. I never built those yet.
Yeah, them are on Armas.
Arma, okay.
The worst part is the end on the shaft is the actual keyway to unscrew the cap.
Okay.
Like I said, it's like really.
Four shocks done. Water break.
Mhm.
And when you get grease, marine grease, like this one comes from Horizon Hobby, and it does come with a kind of a pump that you can use and a small tip that comes out, which is kind of neat. But what I do is I put it in a syringe that you get from medical to give kids or whatever medication. So this one came from Shoppers Drug Mart, and I put it in there, and then as I squeeze, I pull it out, and then it goes in here. So there's different ways to do it. You can pull it out and just squeeze it into it instead. Also, there's different ways to fill up this, but I like this better as an applicator because when I'm working on a kit, I can actually just put it into the gears as I need it very easily, more easily than using this pump thing. So I like using this little trick for grease. Hey, RC Recreation, how you doing? RC Recreation. Hey, Robert, brother, with a smiley face that is freezing. It's too funny. Robert, the man from up north.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just did. I seen this the other day, and I just looked it up. They actually make a tool where you can test and see if two shocks are balanced.
Yeah, it's probably by compression rate to see if it's easy or not. So that's probably how that works.
No, it's got a scale on it.
Yeah.
And on the top of it, it's like a shifting protractor.
Okay.
To see which one is, which one might be a little bit stiffer than the other.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm never gonna buy. I'm never gonna buy something like that because I don't care how precise it is for me, for my taste. But I can see some racers.
Oh yeah, I seen it the other day and I looked at it and I was like, wait a minute, did I just see that?
Oh, somebody. Yellow. My my buddy from the hobby store is trying to call me. Connecting.
No, Dave, it's not like a spoke tensioner for a bike. Like I said, it's got both sides of the sliding scale are attached to this protractor.
I just told him I am at home, but on a YouTube live right now. So He is supposed to come here and pick up 3 trucks, so finished off 3 trucks for him, fixing it. And we're down to the last 2 shocks. And then we will probably finish this live and start another one later for doing something else like the chassis or whatever. I'm going to do it in parts. But I like using shock pliers. Ever since I got shock pliers, it makes your life...
They're the best things ever.
Oh yeah, it makes your life so much easier. Now somewhere I had a special tool to help me screw these together, but I'm not sure where it is. Like the links, to put links or ball ends on the sides.
Oh, okay.
But I like you doing it this way. It works. Might as well put the shock retainer in there right now. Like these are so smooth and so nice, the way they're machined, because I'm putting the screw there, and if I hit it hard enough, it will screw and unscrew all the way. Which this is how smooth these are. Is just great. Like you can give it one swing, and so I've seen some shocks where you fight with it to actually put them together, but this one is nice and smooth.
Big Head Tank's the smartest Canadian I know.
Oh, well, thank you.
Welcome in, Wolfie.
Make sure all the bubbles are out. And I can put the top back on. I think I got too much oil on this one again. Especially when you have a gasket on top while you're screwing it, it's always good to turn it and to make sure your gasket is not coming out of it. I knew I had too much oil. Sometimes it's just a drop or two. It's just crazy how accurate sometimes you have to be.
Oh, yeah. Or even how much of a difference one less turn or one less quarter turn on that bottom rod end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smooth as butter. One thing that's not bad is I've already put the little cap on top of with the C-clip or E-clip, whatever people call it.
Mm-hmm.
One more shock. So it saves time because I did this off camera just before we started putting these little clips on. And
oh, come on, it's so much fun to. It's actually I don't know what's easier, putting them dumb things on or taking them off.
Yeah. Well, once you get the trick, it's pretty easy to take them off.
No, I know, but I'm just saying,
Yeah, yeah.
even still, sometimes one will go flying on you.
Yes.
You know, it's like, oh, damn it.
One of them did kind of fly for me a little while ago, but it didn't go far. But only one of them, which is nice. But one thing which is nice about this marine grease, it's like green slime. Everybody likes that green slime. That's exactly what this is. It's marine grease. That's why it works so good, because it's waterproof and it doesn't go away. Hey, Blacksmith RC, how you doing? Blacksmith has really been building some 24 scale comp truck. He seems to be doing pretty good with it. Blacksmith is on Instagram, pretty active. I believe he's on TikTok also, and YouTube. So nice when you were building shocks and you barely have any parts left in front of you. Almost done building shocks. I like building shock, but I also hate building shocks. It's a love-hate relationship. Go up and down with the shaft, take all the bubbles out. You can actually hear it when you're going up and down and see the bubbles come out from the underneath. Kind of go squish squish, making a squirting sound. Take a little bit of oil out. Once you've built enough shocks, you're going to know if they feel all the same, especially when you push it in and it comes out. When it comes out pretty much all the same, you know you got it done pretty good. It's just experience. And as a final test, you can basically put them all on the desk and actually try them one at a time to see if it feels all the same. Pretty darn close. There we go, 6 shocks. Yes, I am building a 6x6. There we go, guys. Thanks for stopping by. watching me build shocks. This is the way I build my shocks. There's a lot of different ways that you guys can build your shocks and get it done. So whatever preference you work, you'll get your own little tips. You'll get your own little tricks on when you build shocks. But these ones don't have a bladder on top. So it's different building these than Traxxas shocks and also Arma shocks. So now I'm going to play with the retainer for the adjuster to make sure they're all the same. Pretty much midpoint. And then I can adjust how much, depending once it's on the truck, see how it performs. But for now, 50 weight on this truck, on this 6x6. Usually it's 30 weight I put, but I got a feeling this truck is going to be heavy. So I'd rather go with a little bit more weight on it. And thanks for stopping by to watch. And thanks, John Martin, for dropping in on the Zoom. And
No problem.
we'll stay in the Zoom, us, and just chit-chat for a little bit. And I might go on a little later to start building the frame and building other things. So watch me hopefully later, and we'll chit-chat. Till then, guys, take care and charge up some batteries. Go out there, break something, because if you're not breaking anything, you're not having any fun. Right, John?
Oh, yeah. I break stuff all the time.
Yeah. Push it to the limit, in other words. See you guys.
Oh, hey, prime example.
Oh, he's showing a tire that's blown.
Oh,
tire.
yeah. If I finished the race,
Cool.
it
Nice.
happened at lap 7 or something like that, of a 50 lap race.
Wow. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Later.